Here's what I need to say about Jorge Polanco. I feel bad for him, and I feel bad for this signing because there is not a single Met fan right now that's going to be excited to see Jorge Polanco being signed after what the Mets just endured this past week with losing Diaz and Pete Alonso. Once again, Jeff McNeil has no role on this team. Please, David Stearns, do not sit in front of a microphone and tell me that Jeff McNeil is going to be your starting left fielder. That's not possible.
Voices rising up from the stands.
What's up, Met fans? This is Justin from Meet the Met Fans podcast. After Hell Week, right, at the winter meetings, we have our first real major league signing that we've had with the New York Mets since the winter meetings. We're here right now to discuss a 2-year, $40 million contract for Jorge Polanco. Polanco last year was with Seattle Mariners. He had a really good year, 26 home runs, 265 average, 78 RBIs, mostly playing second base and DH. And it looks like for the New York Mets for this upcoming year, there's been a lot of speculation. I know Passan tweeted out something or wrote something out saying that they're exploring potentially first base as well as DH for Polanco. Here's what I need to say about Jorge Polanco. I feel bad for him, and I feel bad for this signing. Because there is not a single Met fan right now that's going to be excited to see Jorge Polanco being signed after what the Mets just endured this past week with losing Diaz and Pete Alonso. A lot of fans, I've had people texting me already about this. I've had people reaching out saying, how could you possibly replace Pete Alonso with Jorge Polanco? You can give this guy, Pete, another $11 million. He's well worth it, right? He's way better than Polanco. And it's not as simple as that, right? If fans are sitting there right now saying that, oh, this is their pivot plan, this was their move that they were going to make, we were going to just replace Pete Alonso with Jorge Polanco, that's not really fair. This is one tiny piece to a larger puzzle by David Stearns. And when I first saw this, I did question it. I said, Polanco, first base? How many times has he ever played it? And it looks like he has one game played, but not really. It's like something where he was inserted into the 9th inning, allegedly to play first base. So pretty much he has zero experience at first base. He mostly has been a middle infielder, shortstop, second base. He's also played some third base, right, throughout his career. And so, again, it's another piece in which you kind of look at that and say there must be more that David Stearns is going to be doing here, especially because you already have a plethora of infielders, right? You just traded for Marcus Semien, you got Brett Beatty, you have Vientos, you got Mauricio, you got Jet Williams. All of these guys, and Acuna, all of these guys are infielders, and now you just took on another infielder. And so it's pretty clear here that the New York Mets are going to be making a couple of trades. And Beatty is definitely going to be someone that's probably going to be available. Vientos is probably someone available, Acuna. And then what this shows me is that, once again, Jeff McNeil has no role on this team. Please, David Stearns, do not sit in front of a microphone and tell me that Jeff McNeil is going to be your starting left fielder. That's not possible. That's not the way that the Mets are going to run this organization. There's no way that McNeil is going to be our starting left fielder. And so if you're telling me he's not going to be our starting left fielder, you just now gave yourself another middle infielder, someone that's versatile, someone that can play multiple positions in Jorge Polanco. And McNeil, once again, doesn't really have a role on this team. Now, I think Polanco is going to be more of like a replacement for like a Jesse Winker and Starling Marte type of situation in terms of the DH spot. I know that he did a lot of that with the Mariners last year. At 32 years of age, that makes a lot of sense. And he was successful last year, right? He had, one of his best offensive years that he's had in a while. And, maybe it is getting off his feet a couple of days. Maybe it is, having that, that ability just to hit in a game and not have to worry about defense. But we saw that's something that he can be successful at. This is not about replacing Pete Alonso. There is pretty much no one on the free agent market. I don't even know if people would argue that Tucker, right? Even if you sign Kyle Tucker, that the New York Mets could have signed right now that would have replaced Pete Alonso. This is about making the 2026 New York Mets a better baseball team. And I think Jorge Polanco is one tiny step in making the New York Mets a better team. So I can't fault this signing. I'm upset with this signing. It's a little head scratching, but I think this is a chess match that we're playing here, and that this is only one move of many that Stearns is going to be making. And I think it gives him a little bit more flexibility in terms of trades, that he's going to be able to move some of those young pieces that we just referred to before. And I think that, we're going to see that for the New York Mets, this again, hopefully is, something that we're going to be able to, build on. To me, Jorge Polanco is pretty comparable to Brandon Nimmo. And when we look at the money that Nimmo is making, just over $20 million, Polanco signed 2 for 40, so it's $20 million a year. And so the Nimmo comparison to Jorge Polanco makes a lot of sense, right? They're very comparable in batting average, home runs, pretty much RBIs, on base, everything is pretty much the same. And so, what they do get is flexibility in terms of contract years. We clearly see that David Stearns likes the shorter contracts with high AAVs, that he can then be flexible. And, if you have all these young guys that you want to eventually get into the major league system, that's really the route that you have to do. You can't sign a whole bunch of free agents that are 30, 31 years old to 8 to 10-year deals and then say, but we also have these young guys that we want to bring up. That's not possible. And so Polanco is someone that can play. He's a major league player. He's a good baseball player that can definitely man whatever position they are in need of at that time. And if it is on the DH role, that's great. I just can't imagine that Jorge Polanco is going to be our starting first baseman. Now, we've seen David Stearns do this with the Brewers, okay? They acquired Colton Wong a few years ago, the Brewers, under Stearns' leadership, and, they moved their second baseman to first base, and then Wong was then their second baseman. And so we've already seen David Stearns do that in the past, is take a middle infielder position and try to transition them into first base. Obviously you saw Harper do that from right field. Polanco is an athletic guy. It's someone that, what they've said is that they believe that he can be successful if they need it. But who knows? There's still a long off season. I have a feeling that they're going to still acquire themselves a first baseman. They might be in a platoon situation where they use Polanco. They maybe use Vientos if he's still on the team, and then whoever is else they do acquire. But once again, this is just a small piece to a much larger puzzle. And I think what this creates and sets up is going to be a lot of trades that the New York Mets are going to be at least exploring. There's already been some rumblings today with the San Diego Padres, and those rumblings are not starting with Francisco Lindor and Fernando Tatis. I don't believe those two guys are getting traded. I know that, Steve Phillips came on and he was like, market here, Lindor is gone, right? The Padres have already inquired. There's been multiple conversations. What I've heard is that the New York Mets are having conversations with the Padres over some of their players that might be available, right? Whether it's Mason Miller, whether it's Ramon Laureano, whether it's, a couple of bullpen arms, or Nick Pivetta, right? The starting pitcher. And so I think maybe that's where there's a lot of rumblings with the Padres and the New York Mets. Hopefully something like that comes to fruition, that the Mets can make a deal with the Padres that could help out their major league team. Apparently, the Padres have a lot of interest in some of their younger pitchers. I think all of baseball does, right? I'm not trying to sound cocky, but those guys are highly touted. And so we'll see. I think, again, this is going to set them up to be able to maybe move a Beatty, a Vientos, Acuna, Mauricio, and then definitely Jeff McNeil, right? Because McNeil has no role here. All right, Met fans, right? This is another quick instant reaction, right, to Jorge Polanco being signed. Stay tuned. Hopefully, we're on this weekend again for an even more exciting, right, signing or another piece, right, to this puzzle, and we'll see what takes place. All right, I'll talk to you soon, Met fans.
Meet the Mets fans, voices rising up from the stands. Hear their cheers, hear their groans, feel their highs, feel their moans. Stories untold now on the mic.